support your being there because it's unsustainable otherwise. Because, again, it's a democracy. So Obama is making a very foolish choice, I think, in not explaining this. Give a primetime address and say, this is the one thing we plan to do in Afghanistan. And it's going to be hard. It's going to take a long time, but we're going to achieve this one thing.
And what's the
don't leave it amorphous and undefined. Right. That's crazy.
And what's the downside of us pulling out of there and bringing the boys and the men and women home? I mean, what's the real downside? There's an obvious downside, and Condoleezza Rice, who I don't think was a particularly effective Secretary of State, but she said this yesterday, and there's probably some truth in it. Like, you can't have Afghanistan become what it once was, which is this, lawless non-state where any lunatic in the world can move there, find a safe haven, and plan attacks against civilization. I mean, you don't want that.
That's kind of what it is now, outside of the areas controlled by the NATO forces.
Well, it's never going to be a civilized country because the people aren't civilized. So, but the question is, can you mitigate the risk of, Al-Qaeda moving there again and setting up a home base unmolested? Yeah, you can do that. Maybe that's the goal. Maybe the goal is to keep just enough control to prevent Osama bin Laden's children from running Afghanistan. Okay, that's a goal. Let's run with that. But you have to pick a goal.
But I mean, you got to
Pakistan.
But you got to tell us that, though, don't you?
Well, the president ought to be very clear about what the goal is. He has to. This is the lesson of every presidency. You have to get the public on board. And it's not enough for people to say, oh, yeah, I'm for that. They have to kind of understand why you're doing it. Once they understand, once they internalize it, they'll be on your side, and they'll have support that's enduring.
And the king of that was Ronald Reagan. I mean, Ronald Reagan would be on the TV, and he would either accept responsibility when he messed up, or he would try to advise or at least let you know what he's up to and what he's doing. Maybe that's one of the reasons why he did so well.
Well, it was also a clearer time because you had an opponent, an enemy, the Soviet Union, that was so clearly evil that there wasn't much debate. And anybody who refused to call him evil was himself morally screwed up. I mean, it wasn't hard. It was very clear. It was like, they're bad. We're better than they are. Let's, halt their spread. Let's halt the spread of communism. That made a lot of sense. His successor, George H.W. Bush, went from being the most popular president in history at 90% when we invaded Kuwait. When Brent and his fellow Marines went into Kuwait, he lost, to fewer than 2 years later. Why is that? Because he didn't tell the whole truth. The reason that we kicked Saddam out of Kuwait was we can't have the international petroleum supply threatened by lunatics like Saddam. That's a totally valid justification for war.
Perfectly good reason.
He should have just said that. People would have understood it.
Sure, absolutely. And you know what? George H.W. Bush lost, but he conducted that war two ways the right way. Number one, strategically, he did it perfect. Secondly, he got Japan and Germany to pay for it. I mean, that was a good president.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think about the latest? I'll just play the audio and let Tucker comment on it.
One final note here: the wealthy suburb of Bedford, New York, north of here, is the home of Richard Gere, Martha Stewart, and perhaps by tomorrow, Muammar Gaddafi of Libya. Donald Trump's organization says it's looking into published reports that Gaddafi has literally put down stakes at Trump's estate in Bedford, New York, for this week's UN visit, and that he's trying to pitch his tent, including the requisite satellite dishes, on the estate, which is known as Seven Springs. Late today, a local newspaper in Bedford reported the town has issued a stop work order because nobody had gotten a permit for the Gaddafi tent.
What say you, Tuck?
I think it's pretty amusing that Gaddafi is pitching. I mean, speaking of Reagan, this was a guy who we tried to kill in his tent with cruise missiles in 1988. Was it 88, 87, 88?
It was 88. I want to say it was late 88. I want to say it was or summer 88. But what Reagan didn't do is invade and occupy Libya.
No, well, that's a solid point. I mean, Reagan made some foreign policy mistakes, keeping the Marines in Lebanon among them. But no, you're right. That's totally right. But it's just funny that that's the same guy whose adopted daughter was killed in that strike. It was only 20 years ago, and now he's trying to pitch a tent in Westchester County. I mean, it's pretty funny. I mean, no. I don't know. And I have to say, I was opposed to Iraq from very early in that war, and I didn't think it was justified, and I thought it was foolish. However, one upside, one good consequence was it scared the hell out of Muammar Gaddafi, and he stopped his chem bio programs. He all of a sudden became pretty tame And that's a good thing. I think we should admit it.
What do you think about G20? G20 is in Pittsburgh this weekend, and we're headed to Pittsburgh
with every nutcase on the planet.
Yeah,
including the politicians.
We're headed there Saturday for Bubba Palooza, just outside of Pittsburgh and Greensburg. But G20 is going to be there as well.
I think Pittsburgh is one of the cool towns in the world. I love Pittsburgh. Well, downtown Pittsburgh's pretty grim, as you know, but Pittsburgh in general is a great place with good people, really pretty, great fly fishing right outside of it, good food, good beer. I mean, it's a great town. It's a little weird that G20 is going to be there. These events tend to draw, since I used to have an office right next to the IMF and World Bank, and every time they would meet, you would get people, tinfoil hats doesn't even describe it. I mean, people who literally believed that the Israelis and the CIA were controlling their thoughts by remote control. I mean, there'll be so many of those people at that meeting.
Alex Jones will be out there with his bullhorn.
Do you know Alex Jones?
I don't know him personally. I follow him because he's in our business.
Alex Jones is a whack job.
Right. Yeah, he gives everybody that he gives like 9/11 truthers a bad name.
I mean, he's pretty smart though. I mean, he's not.
Yeah, but it's almost like he overanalyzes things. There's a point where you got to separate the two, and I don't think he knows how to separate.
Yeah, he draws conclusions where things are not sometimes. He's got a good website.
Sometimes.
It is a good website.
I mean, that guy, I can't tell whether he believes it, whether he's a demagogue, he's just doing it to make money. I assume he makes money doing that.
Well, of course, and at the end of the day, I believe that's probably what it is, just as Glenn Beck probably doesn't believe half the things that come out of his mouth, nor does Rush Limbaugh. It's all, at the end of the day, some form of entertainment that they make a buck off of. So I think they probably believe a little bit of it, but not a lot of it.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's a lot easier to believe, in my opinion, a lot easier to believe what Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh say than it is to believe
but the problem is
that the Trilateral Commission is watching you as you take a bath. I mean,
but the thing they all have in common is none of those three believe what they're saying.
Really?
No way. Come on. Please.
Glenn Beck strikes me as totally sincere. Maybe he's just such a genius.
He's an actor.
He's a great entertainer.
Yeah, Glenn Beck is a zookeeper. And it even says it there's a great article in Time magazine about him. But the thing about Glenn Beck is he just does an interview with Katie Couric. Now, he's gone on and railed against Obama, which that's a perfectly legitimate position. And then he goes on Katie Couric and says McCain would have been worse for America than Obama.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that. I don't think it's true. I think McCain would have been a mediocre president. I don't think he was temperamentally suited to be president.
Well, look, Tuck, if let's say you weren't the heir to the Swanson fortune, let's take that out of the mix.
And I didn't have billions of dollars in Krugerrands in a vault in my basement. Yeah, it's hard to imagine, but I'll try.
Let's take it all out, and let's say they offered you $40 million a year to take a certain position on something, and you would defend that position, and that was your job to defend that position. Would you do it?
Come on, Tuck.
Of course not. I would never do that. And I'm not just saying it. I promise I wouldn't.
You're a liar is what you are.
No, I promise.
You would sell it in a
I don't want money I'm not that interested. I've never really been that interested in money. I just want enough to send my kids to school.
You've already switched up your MO a little bit coming from MSNBC to Fox. I've seen a little switch, just a little.
I don't feel it. Well, I mean, I don't. Brent, I'm in a totally different role in that I don't have my own show.
I want you to be honest, Brent. I mean, he's changed a little bit, don't you think?
No, he's pretty consistent.
So
think of it this way: a lot has changed. I don't have a daily show, right? So I'm not in charge of the show. I'm not responsible for the entire content, which is a huge difference. And Bush is no longer president. Barack Obama is.
Yeah, the beauty of Tuck is he didn't fit in either place.
Ideas I reject. So
the beauty is he was ignorant on both places.
Right. He didn't fit in with the MSNBC template, but yet he doesn't quite fit in with the Fox.
One thing that hasn't changed is my overwhelming ignorance.
Now hold on. Speaking of Glenn Beck being a zookeeper, this was when he was a zookeeper in Phoenix. Listen to this.
This is great.
Now, Tucker, are you familiar with what a zookeeper is?
Yeah, morning zoo drive time.
Yeah, the morning zoo nut hut zaniness. That whole wacky type deal. Hold on, listen to this. It's not. I don't have any volume here. Hold on. It's not. Is it doing this whole damn thing again? This says internet right here, Brent.
Yeah,
it should be.
Yeah, you should be. Yeah. You should be right there.
Oh, Spice, I can't get it to come up unless it's supposed to be.
Yeah, you never know who.
I know.
Oh, this is so wacky and so zany.
Hold on, here we go. Here we go. Tucker, this is Glenn Beck with a TV commercial as a zookeeper when he used to be at Y95, I think, in Phoenix. Here we go. Listen to this. Like this is the Glenn Beck that we know today. Listen.